So I was always taught that there should be selflessness in our relationships, right? And there's truth to that, but the question is, when does selflessness become toxic? Because there's nothing wrong with thinking about others, right? You might love to give. You might actually enjoy giving your time and energy to people that you care about. You naturally anticipate other people's needs. You look for ways to serve them. You want the people around you to know that they're appreciated and loved and valued. And doing that stuff brings you joy as well. And on top of that, you almost have like a superpower of being able to read people, to pick up on their micro expressions. You know how they're feeling before they even tell you, don't you? People come to you when they're upset because you're good at empathizing and understanding and listening and giving great advice on their personal or relational situations. And I think so much of that is beautiful and kind and loving. And I'm not saying we should stop any of those things. The only thing I'm saying is that there's a dangerous side to selflessness. And that happens when you begin to associate your value with your giving. Selflessness can become toxic when our identity gets wrapped up in prioritizing them because we still feel chronically neglected. I mean, you're anticipating their needs, but that's not being reciprocated, is it? You're the first one to sacrifice for someone else, but so often you don't feel like your partner is sacrificing for you. And I think it's great to be considerate of other people. The question we have to ask ourselves is, when we bring up our concerns or desires about how we would like to be considered, are we met with the same validation and empathy that we give to other people? I think it's great that we have a desire to learn how to fill their love tank. But do they have a desire to fill yours as well? The truth is, you might always be better at giving than they are, but in general, do you feel intentionally loved and prioritized by them? And are you able to vulnerably and specifically tell them what makes you feel loved and valued? And if your answer is no, because, well, I've told them countless times and they either forget or they launch into why I'm too needy, and it just starts another fight where I end up apologizing for bringing up a feeling. If that's your situation, then I think you know what I'm going to say next. You might have drifted into a dangerous territory where your selflessness is no longer healthy. So how do I know if I'm being kind and loving and nice, or if I'm being selfless in a toxic way? And the answer is when you don't feel like it's reciprocated, when you don't feel like you can talk about your feelings because they're not a safe place for you. You're giving and serving, but oftentimes with unexpressed expectations, and when those aren't met, you're building up a lot of resentment towards them, aren't you? And don't get me wrong, it's good to have healthy expectations. That's what this video is all about. There's a reason why you're upset with your situation. It's because your heart knows this isn't fair, right? Our mind knows that we deserve safety and consistency. And even though they say they love us, it's not loving when they dismiss or invalidate or neglect or yell at you. It's not respectful when they refuse to listen to your feelings and instead punish you for having them. It makes sense that our body would be angry about that and try to protect us from future harm through detaching from this person emotionally or physically. And maybe that's why you're so passive-aggressive with them. That's why everything seems to trigger you. That's why it's easy to get into a fight with them. Because it's not about the dishes or the laundry. It's about trust being systemically broken in this relationship. It's about the fact that you know you're asking for the bare minimum levels of consideration, and they refuse to give you that. And you've tried bringing it up respectfully. You've tried yelling, you've tried the silent treatment, you've tried passive aggressiveness, you've tried asking them to go to counseling, you've tried everything, and you still feel stuck and powerless. And I'm not here to tell you when to leave your relationships. I'm here to empower you and remind you that you deserve more than the bare minimum. You deserve respect and kindness. But it's always our job to advocate for those, right? It's always going to be our job to set healthy boundaries. You might not find someone who is as much of a giver as you are, but that doesn't mean you should have to settle for a taker. And the problem is, let's just be honest, sometimes as people pleasers, we question ourselves a lot, don't we? We question what we're allowed to need. And if you have a partner who belittles or demeans or mocks you, who gets in your face and tells you confidently that you're crazy, we start to believe them, don't we? And one of the reasons, and at least at the beginning of the relationship, we didn't talk about our boundaries, we didn't talk about our non-negotiables, we didn't talk about our needs, is because we avoid conflict, right? We didn't set any boundaries or advocate for our needs because we were scared it would lead to distance and disconnection, right? The only problem is that's exactly where the absence of those things led us as well, didn't it? So for my selfless crowd, I just want to lovingly remind you, your relationship with yourself is the best predictor when it comes to your relationship with others. What you believe about yourself matters. Your self-worth matters. Your self-talk matters. What you think deep down you deserve in your relationships matters. Sometimes because of our past, we believe we're not worthy to be prioritized or sacrificed for. So we subconsciously date people that confirm that mindset, and that sets us up to be neglected and unloved. Sometimes we need to admit that we were basing our worth and value on whether they deemed us valuable. We were looking to someone else to confirm that we were worthy of love, when in reality, that has to come from inside of us first. We shouldn't be looking for someone else to complete us because we're already whole. Sometimes we need to admit that we wanted to save them, in a sense, didn't we? We wanted to help them. We saw that they were wounded. We saw their pain or hurt or depression or childhood, and we thought, we can heal them with our love. And yes, love is healing, but 9 times out of 10, us trying to heal them didn't go so well because they didn't want to do the work. And the more we tried, the more that they saw us as the enemy, because we forget that it's not our job to save someone. It's not our job to heal someone who won't quit what's making them sick. So why is it so easy for us to fall into these roles? I think one of the reasons might be because we didn't realize we have a fear of abandonment. In so many ways, we end up abandoning ourselves so that we don't get abandoned. And the terrible irony is, unfortunately, this mindset sets us up to date or marry the wrong type of people. Selfish people, narcissistic people, emotionally immature people. And they end up abandoning us anyways. The truth is, it's not our job to control them at all. The only thing we can do is be honest and vulnerable about what we need to feel valued and prioritized in this relationship. And if they don't want to do that, it's their choice. It's not our job to manipulate them into loving us. It's our job to know our value and distance ourselves from people who are telling us with their actions, you're not a priority in my life. And when we're not self-reflective, when we're not tuned into this stuff, we will just blame them instead of looking inward. This doesn't mean we deserve to be mistreated. No one deserves abuse or mistreatment, and any type of abuse needs to be held accountable. But you know as well as I do that in the past, we probably haven't done a great job at setting ourselves up for relationship success when it came to dating and being more aware of the warning signs. And if you felt like I'm describing you so far, you might want to do some research or talk to a professional about anxious attachment. Because when we have a fear of abandonment, we're anxious, we're stressed, we're on high alert. We can't be at peace in this relationship. Our initial caregivers were inconsistent with their love for us. They neglected us in some way, intentionally or unintentionally. So our solution to stay safe and protect ourselves in the present is to people please, to give and serve, and even if it's not reciprocated, to be hyper aware of any threat to them leaving us. That's why we feel panicked when they don't text us back after 3 minutes. That's our nervous system saying, warning, close this gap of distance. Do anything you can to make them not leave you or think about leaving you. The only problem is that that's not a relationship. You're not actually being honest or vulnerable. You're not creating an environment for intimacy because you're too scared that if they knew the real you, then they wouldn't accept you. And sometimes that's because you still don't accept you. And as you can imagine, that's terribly dangerous because you end up staying in unhealthy, toxic, or God forbid, abusive situations because your body and mind has been conditioned to believe I need to earn love. And if I could just get them to love me, then I would be worthy of love. If I could just get them to see me as valuable, then I will have value. And nothing could be further from the truth. Of course, we all want our partners to love us. And of course, we should all want to serve our partner, but we can't do that from a place of trying to earn our worth. You are valuable and worthy of reciprocation and love and kindness and respect. Baseline. Okay, so how do we solve all this? I think the best way is to work with a professional and get honest about the seed that was potentially planted in our minds that we're not worthy of love. We get self-reflective about what we truly believe we deserve in relationships. Some of you have never seen an example of a mutually respectful, safe relationship, and so it's only natural that you don't know what you're allowed to need, and you question yourself. But your job now is to get clear on what you need to feel valued and safe and prioritized. Your job now is to come up with some boundaries around disrespect and anger or addictions. I don't want you to receive the bare minimum, but you better know what your bare minimum is. You better know what your non-negotiables are, or else you'll get with people who step on your bar trying to put it on the floor because that's where they want it. Our job now is to take ownership of our own emotional unavailability or immaturity and learn and grow and do better. We let them be the person they want to be. If they don't want to text us back, fine. If they don't want to commit to us and they want to stay in a situationship, that's fine. They're more than welcome to do that, but not with us. Because we know what we want and what we need and what we deserve. And we don't think we're asking for too much. So of course it's sad when someone we like doesn't like us back. But we know we will be okay because we were okay before them. And when we're in relationships, we learn how love is actually demonstrated. We show up as our authentic selves. And yes, we're still afraid. Yes, we're going to fall into old habits, but we practice. We still love hard, but we also protect ourselves, and we practice talking about what we need to feel prioritized. We don't apologize for things that we didn't do wrong anymore. We serve them, and we also tell them how we would like to be served. We change our criticisms into requests. We realize that our passive aggressiveness was because we were terrified to be vulnerable, which could have been because of them, but it also could have been because of our past. So we get on that healing journey. We practice self-compassion. We empathize with our inner child. We say things like, thank you for trying to protect me. I'm here now to honor you, and I'm going to set boundaries around any unsafe behaviors. We realize that it takes two for relationships to thrive. It always takes two for intimacy to be experienced, right? We can't truly feel connected to someone if they don't care about our inner world or what connection actually requires of all of us. Things like trust and consistency and respect and consideration. Relationships will always take two people doing the work in order to work. We can't boundary someone into prioritizing us. It has to be their choice. Relationships will always be scary because at the end of the day, it's always a risk. There's always a risk that you'll be rejected or that your love won't be reciprocated. But when we finally find ourselves in a healthy, safe relationship, I think we will all agree it was worth the risk. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.